Good evening, team. This is the International Procurement Management coursework presentation comprised of 5 members: Gloria Nanozi, Mavia Nabire, Hadija Kayaga, Andrea Himbisiwe, and Freedom Ahumuza. In reference to the case study, global value chains are the cross-border networks that bring a product or a service from conception to market. The COVID-19 pandemic struck and disrupted business operations around the world. It was declared a pandemic in March 2020, and the measures the COVID-19 posed unprecedented challenges to global value chains by disrupting both the supply of goods and the demand for them. Firms that engage in global value chains were able to learn several lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic as discussed below. The first one, the importance of contingency planning. This was a major lesson for all firms that engage in global value chains to always plan in advance for difficult times. For example, pandemics, floods, earthquakes, inflation, and many others. It is always important for firms to ensure that they plan for the worst case scenarios in their plans. The second one was utilization of local sourcing. It was a good lesson for all firms to always utilize their local vendors in their countries. During the COVID-19 pandemic, most of the firms that were engaged in global value chains turned to their local vendors, but since they had not given them an opportunity before, they were unable to manage the production capacities and quality. So it was an important lesson for them to always engage them so that they boost their capacities to serve big markets. The third lesson was diversification of the manufacturing and sourcing networks. This refers to the strategy of creating a network of additional suppliers that encompass different sales locations and capabilities. For all firms that engage in global value chains, it was always important for them to learn that diversification of networks and multiple procurement channels for inputs and products is always important to minimize shortages. Mavian.
Thank you, Gloria. I'll continue with the lessons learned. The firms learned that they need to place buffers along the supply chain, which literally means having extra stock in the warehouse for in case of emergency or supply chain failure or transportation delays. And through holding buffer stock, organizations are able to obtain continuous performance in their organization activities. This is so because through the use of buffer stock, shortages inputs and products have been minimized, hence enabling continuous performance. Another lesson that the firms learned was to have to create more revenue streams, which is one of the most difficult yet very imperative. Some firms engaged in the global value chain had no choice but to find new ways to generate revenue when lockdown and quarantine made their original business plans impossible. That take away the lessons that they learned was to always prepare for similar situations in the future by finding multiple ways to bring in money so that when the principal revenue source is down or jeopardized, they can still generate revenue from other sources. And another lesson that was learned is that they should never take anything for granted, that every idea, every decision that they make for the business, they make it as though COVID-19 or any other pandemic or any other situation is in place. They should know that every decision that they make affects the health of their company. I would like to invite Andrew to take us through until the strategies that can be implemented.
After a number of lessons learned from the COVID-19, there are strategies that we have designed to reduce on the demise of the pandemics, or even worse than COVID-19. One of the strategies, we have investment in technology and innovation. Organizations design technology. Organizations can design technological advancement and new innovations in a way to do business to ensure continuity during the pandemics. For example, designing softwares, websites, applications, and other technological systems to make sure that the business keeps in operation. Another strategy is developing and designing contingency plans. Organizations ought to design contingency plans by creating actual scenarios than just forecasts. The contingency plan is just a plan B. It's a plan designed to help in the future circumstances like pandemics or even worse than COVID-19. Pandemics like COVID-19 or even worse pandemics. Another strategy is supplier tiering. Supplier tiering refers to the process of organizing suppliers into tiers based on the importance in the supply chain. Organizations can adopt to use supplier tiering as a strategy in eliminating disruptions in delivery. A single supplier can be selected to manage all other suppliers in the supply chain, hence eliminating demand disruptions that could be caused due to complications in the supply chain. This also helps in controlling and eliminating wastes. Freedom.
Supplier development. This refers to the process of working collaboratively with critical and high potential suppliers. Organizations shall be able to develop their own local suppliers, and with the adoption of such strategy, there is continuous supply in inputs and products even after border closure, hence eliminating shortages. Another point is creating a hedge portfolio of big moves. Strategic moves by their portfolio outcompete the rest because of economic upheaval. When your company that you can later expand the company with an option, increase, you can take one.
Another strategy is communicate transparently with your customers. This means that try to inform your customers about what the business is going through, either it is a pandemic or not. Because the way suppliers feel is also another way the customers feel when there is an outbreak. Also try to develop an international and local sourcing plan. This means that firms or organizations need to develop these two sourcing plans, both locally and internationally. And by so doing this, it helps to develop good relation working with suppliers and also contracts that support both parties. And as a result, organizations are required to have some arrangements with local providers to manage the uncertainties in future. Another strategy is to build production and manufacturing capacity. This is done in order for the supply chain. The supply chain disruptions have made things to increase in terms of prices and also the way things are delivered from one point to another, hence lengthening the transit time. So by so doing this, companies can plan and develop their own production and manufacturing plants in their home countries in order to reduce the complexity involved in their sourcing. So in conclusion, all businesses were affected globally. So it is important to take all lessons from the business seriously and develop functional strategies to manage the above strategies. That's all what I have.